Welcome back, guys. This is Shrikant. This is day 8 of our series Learn SQL with Shrikant. In this one, we are going to talk about the data types. Let's start. So first, let's try to understand the definition. Data type is an attribute that specifies the type of data that an object can hold. So basically, data type which will tell you what kind of data you are going to store. And this data type, this attribute actually store integer kind of data, character kind of data, monetary kind of data, date and time, binary string, and so on. So based on different kind of data, we have a categorization for the data types. So there are few categorization of the data type like numeric, then string, date and time, binary, and miscellaneous. So if you carefully understand numeric, why there is a categorization like that. So what they have done actually, the what kind of data they are going to store. Let's say if they are storing the numeric data like numbers, right? Then everything has to be grouped into one kind of category, and they categorize it into numeric. Now next category is kind of a string. For example, if something is storing alphanumeric value or string kind of data or any name or anything, that kind of data type will move to the string or the character data type. Then date and time, for example, we have a data and those are basically in the date format, right? That kind of data will be categorized under date and time. We are going to have an image, and for example we want to store that image into database. Then how the image will basically get stored into database, it will be stored into the binary format 0 1 0 like that. So for that we have a binary, and there are some different special kind of data like a geometry, geography, then CLR. Those are come into the miscellaneous one, right? Let's try to understand one by one. Numeric data type also categorized into two kind of data type. The first is exact numeric data types and another is approximate numeric data type. So in the exact numeric data types, we have int, small int, tiny int, big int, then money, small money, and the decimal or the numeric. Okay. Now for let's say we want to store some kind of integer number. So we have specifically four for storing four type of data type like int, small int, tiny int, and the big int. Why do we have this kind of four for point number one? We basically have this four based on the what kind of range we are going to deal with. Let's say we are dealing with a very big range and it needs to be started from this range, very big range. Then we need to go with a big int, and we want some kind of data type which is not that much basically big like a big int, but uh, it should also store the big number but not that much big int. Then we have a int. Then the next thing is basically small int. If we have a requirement that our numbers will come under basically minus 32,000 to plus 32,000, then that will come under the small int. Then the tiny int, basically if we have a number which basically starting range from 0 to 255, then we need to go with the tiny int. But the thing is basically why this 4 is there, based on the data type and the storage size also it will take. Let's say for example you are going for a tiny, then it would be 1 byte, then small int 2 byte, then int 4 byte, and the big int 8 byte. So internally uh, how long storage it will take. So basically yeah, it will take that much storage based on the different types. Perfect. Then we have a decimal numeric, money, and the small money. If we have something like money kind of thing, money will be a real money. If you want to store something like that, then you need to go with a money. And the same thing, if you have a very small range, then you need to go with a small money. So this is the range basically which we have stored, and money will always have the four decimal. Perfect. Then we have a data type called as a decimal data type. We need to provide two things. The first thing is called as a precision, another thing is called as scale. How do we write like that? Decimal 10 comma 2. So I hope you guys understood what are the different type of exact numeric data type. So int, small int, tiny int, big int, then decimal, money, and small money. Very simple. You need to think what kind of data you are going to store, you are going to have for the column. Like based on that you need to select the proper data type. Next is basically approximate numeric data type. In this we have a float and real. So what happen, when we deal with a calculation or scientific specifically scientific calculation or chemical calculation kind of thing, that time we need a very large precision, right? So precision and scale, correct? And sometimes we don't know that how much, how much scale we require. So if the number is having a lot of lot of scaling number, then we need to go with a float, really something like that. Also it depends on the size. So store approximate numeric data with a floating decimal point, and store approximate numeric data floating decimal point. So that's the difference. In simple word, if you have a very long value which basically have a scale, lot of scale numbers, then you need to go with a float. And if you have a size issue, then you need to go with a real, and if you don't have a size issue, then you can go with a simply float. The next category is called as a character data type. So in the character data type we have char, varchar, text, nvarchar and ntext. So char is fixed length non-unicode character data. So char is a basically fixed length. So for example, let's say you have defined and one important thing is the storage size here in the character. So for the char it will take a 1 byte per character, and it is a fixed type, which means basically, let's say you define char of 100, so it will always store 100 byte of data. Perfect. Next is varchar. Varchar is basically variable length. So based on the value, it will be get adjusted. For example, you define varchar of 100, and you are passing a value which will have let's say 10, varchar of 10. So it will only take a 10 byte. Next, text, variable length and non-unicoded data. So sometime what happen, you want to store a very big text, and you don't know how long it will be. Then you need to go with a text. It actually and one more thing basically which I want to add here, and let's say you have to use these character values, and you want to use a max. So there is a thing called as a varchar max. Varchar max you can also store a long long text up to the 2 GB size. Then we have a nvarchar, so variable length, that is also variable length, but it will store non no, that's a unique code. Actually the difference between varchar and nvarchar is basically it store non-unicode and it stored unicode. Unicode basically other than English language, like for example you want to store the words from any language like Hindi, Chinese, Japanese, then you need to go with this nvarchar. Ntext is same like a varchar max, and that is basically deprecated. But I hope you guys understood char, varchar, text, and these are all basically, let's say it will store 1,000 character, and that will be fixed always. So you need to go with a char 1,000, and that value in the string will change every time. So then you need to go with a varchar. And if you don't know anything about how long it will take, then you can go with a text. And nvarchar will be used when you want to store non English character, like Hindi words you want to store, or Chinese, Japanese. That time you can use this one. Perfect. Next category is basically date and time, date time. So in the date and time category we have date time 2, small date time offset, time tab, and the row version. So date is just to store the date only, time just store the time only, date and time store date and time value, store date and time value with higher precision. Then small date time, same thing, store date and time values. Then time date offset, store the date and time value with a time zone awareness. So if you want such kind of format, then you can go with this date time offset. Then we also have timestamp or row version, so store a unique binary number. Perfect. I will show you practically how to use, but this is the theoretical thing. The next thing is basically binary, fixed length binary data, variable length binary data. So binary, var binary, and images. So these are the binary data type. For example, you have the image and you want to store into database. How do you store it? You will store that image in the database with the data type called as a binary, when you know that this length will be fixed. But and you will also go with a var binary when you know that image size will be sometime big or sometime less. You can go with this also. If you go with a max, then depend on the character, it will it will take. So binary and binary will come into the picture when you want to store the image data, then image data, right? So these are the very important data type which we understood, and I will show practically how to use that also. So choosing the right data type is a best practice here. To choose the most appropriate data type for the data. Then consider the size, and because see, if you, for example, you want to store the number between 1 to let's say 1 to 255, but you have chosen data type as a big int. So what will happen, unnecessarily the data space will be taken, and that would decrease the performance. So these are actually important things. Then let's jump to the demonstration. So data type will come into the picture when we will create a table, or when we create or when we declare the variable. Now in this one we already know how to create a table. So let's start. For example, I am going to create a table. So the syntax is create table, then the name of the table I am giving as a test. Then what happen, you need to provide a name of a column, so I am providing id, and here basically you need to provide a data type. Right now now then I am going to give a name, and here also data type. Now discuss something, let's discuss. So for example, I am having a raw data something like this one, and I'm going to tell you this data like 1 2 3, and here something like Shrikant, then Shrikant, or then Sam and Sammy. These are the basically three words I have, and this is kind of data I need to move into the database. Now just think about, you have this column id. What kind of data it is? It is an integer data. So for integer, what kind of data type we can use? We can use int, small int, big int. But now I know this will be not that much big, so I can go with a tiny int, or I can go simply with a int. That's fine. Then int. Then the next column basically I have is called as the value, sorry, name, and it will basically store something Shrikant, Sam and Sammy. So what do you think, what kind of data type it should support? It should support basically character. Then I need to think about what kind of char, because I have char, varchar, right, n varchar. But I know I'm seeing here the size of the character is not fixed, that is variable. So what will I use? I will basically use n varchar for the name, n varchar. And here I need to provide a size. I'm just providing 100. This is the syntax. So do you think it is really that much difficult? Now just imagine we are going to have the data something like that, something like this, or you can say 0102 2023. Then just copy paste. You are just giving name as a date. Now think, this date column we have, right? What kind of data it is? A date, simple, right? So what you will use, you will simply you will go to your database table, then you will add this column date, and you would say date, because we have this data type, right? Or some date x, just rename this. I want you don't confuse for that, something like this, right? Then there is a one more data type which we I think we missed, that is called as a boolean data type. So boolean data type is like a 1 or 0. Let's say I am saying the flag is male, sorry, is male. So here basically I am seeing something like 1 1, and let's say 0. So Sammy is not a male, and Shrikant and Sam is a male. So here what kind of data type we will use basically. So for this column we will going to use a boolean or bit, right, like this. So now just once again just go back to our definition. Let's see. So we have seen the int, also we have seen date and time, right? Then string, then binary. Binary is also same, like for example you want to store image. This binary information need to be, we can use while working with the application side. So I would say how to use that I will show you. Let's say image, that is the column image1, and it will have the data type like binary of 100, for example, something, right? So this is very simple. So what the thing you need to pass, variable will only come into the picture while defining the data type. So I need to think about what kind of data my column will have. So I know the id is my column where I will have the int value, and name is my column where I will have the character data. Datex is my column where I will have the date kind of data, and is kind of beat kind of data, and I image one is a binary. So you just simply need to create this table and your work is done. Okay, likewise we have different data types, so we can use this. For example, now I use this date time. Now my requirement is basically I want to use a date time here, so simply just instead of date it needs to be date time, because I personally feel datex will always be date time. Okay, just to show you the difference, so let's say this one datex, we will say date y, and we'll make is a date time. Now just create a table. Now if you just select it, you won't see anything because we don't have any data. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to insert some data. Insert into here, the first column is basically id. So these are the column. Now just pass some value. If you have, you can just pass value something like select one, name is Shrikant, then datex, I'm just passing get date. Get date is a function, we'll talk about that to get the current date. Is main, I'm just passing one, and image I don't have, so I'm passing none. Now let's see if there is any error. No error. Now just run the code. See the difference between datex and date y. Here we have just used date, here date time, right? It got automatically loaded. Then the name is Shrikant, then this is the is main is one. Like that we will have the data type. So we need to use properly. I think this will be enough for understanding the data type, what are the different type of data type and how to use it. Hope you enjoyed our video, and thanks for watching.